There you go.
Welcome to another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. I hope you're having a fantastic day as always. Today, we are going to have an amazing conversation with Denise. Denise has this magical gift of making the complex really simple. Denise, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Brad. I am so happy to be doing this with you. Thank you. This is going to be really fun today.
It is. Oh my gosh. We chatted briefly a couple of weeks ago, and some of the topics we're going to discuss are pretty amazing. So let's jump right in as we always do.
Love it.
So this concept of designing your life and business with intention, how do you approach that? And how has it shaped your journey both as a leader and a parent?
Yeah, I love the question because it focuses on the word intention, which is, not where do I want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or how do I address what I used to do, but sort of how to hold it right in front, like you have a steering wheel in front of you and go, where am I going now? Oh, I think I want to go this way. I want to go this way. So it requires consciousness. It requires presence, mindfulness, whatever terms you want to use. And then it's this movement, this flexibility, like if I do this, then where do I change it over here? So there has to be some adaptive skills in there as well. And what I like is the ability to hold presence and adapt and still go in the direction you want to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's get a lot deeper on that. So a client comes to you and says, I'm working 100 hours a week. I've got some cash flow problems and I'm really not happy. How do you take that and help him or her design their life and business with intention?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not a business coach. I'm a personal energy coach. So I'm going to go first as to why are you working 100 hours a week? And where are you afraid that you're not doing enough? And what battles are you having inside of you that's saying, I'm not enough, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And then when you're doing that, you're pushing this out into your field, which everybody around you feels constantly that you don't know what you're doing, you're desperate, and it's not working. So the first thing that I do is go into, well, what's your intention? Is your intention to be such a hard worker that you're miserable? And I have a tarot card that's like, is this what your life looks like? Are you juggling 100 things and nothing's working and you're in no money because there's no room for money to come in, right? Because I'm a tarot reader, so I'm by design, I'm always going to bring a card in and goes, if this is your life, then how do we put down some of those balls? And why are you working 100 hours? And where's the fear coming from? So the intention is to reduce the fear and then to open up the joy.
So I think I know the answer and I agree with what you said, but I want you to explain if someone's working 80 hours or 100 hours a week, how do you know they don't feel enough? And how do you know that there's fear in their life?
I would say intrinsically, if we're working 80 to 100 hours a week, we don't have a balance. And when we're out of balance, then we're suspect to other feelings, energies coming in, anything. So whether it is criticism, judgment, I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses, I'm trying to match what my brother does or my parents gave us, there's something else driving that, which is getting in the way. And I'm going to take that into parenting. I'm going to take that into love relationships. I'm going to take that into friendships or your relationship with the world. If you're working 80 to 100 hours a week, then my guess is that you're trying to catch up on something or something's out of sync.
Yeah, one of my mentors, Marissa Peer, she's been in this business helping people for 40 years. So she's helped thousands of people, right? And she's like, I've never met a workaholic who had high self-esteem.
Yeah. And usually there's this repetitive pattern in their head, which is they hear their father's voice, they hear a teacher's voice, they hear something, and that's just tapping them on the back. And so, what I love is this is the way that the devil card has been portrayed in the Osho Zen, which is, I don't know who I am, but I'm sure as hell going to pretend to be exactly like everybody else. And there's a lot of stress in trying to keep that costume on, trying to keep that pretense going, because you've been conditioned that maybe productivity, let's say you come from a family that is a Ivy League graduate, in the legal profession or political profession, where there's a lot of expectations about what you are going to be able to produce as well. And you have a sensitivity to you are a creative, and this doesn't work for you, but you've lashed on these pretenses. You put the suit and tie on, you go to work, but you're not happy, and at the core, it's not working.
Denise, explain for the viewers who aren't going to be actually watching, or the listeners, I should say, what does the card look like?
I forgot about that. Thank you. So This is the picture of an adolescent lion, and in the middle, surrounded completely by a herd of sheep. Now, it looks to me, and the story of the card is that the lion was born and the sheep adopted it. And it was like, I love these sheep. It's just so wonderful. And then as the lion starts to grow, the sheep get more and more uncomfortable, or the lion gets more uncomfortable because it's different and it doesn't match those around it. So it starts to sort of pretend and carry. It's even got some sheep, some sheep wool tied to its body so that it can pretend to be a sheep. So, and within Osho, he calls this the devil card, which is where we bought into the conditioning of the world around us, and we're not being ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, that workaholic does go into that.
So you mentioned it's the voices of a caretaker or a parent, or possibly their voices. Yeah, and those voices could be a meaning that child placed on whatever it was going on in their life. Dad and mom are fighting all the time about money. Dad's losing his job all the time. Dad's never around. Well, the child often places the blame on themselves, because if the parents are messed up, oh my gosh, I'm really screwed, right? But if it's my fault, then all I got to do is get better, and then I can get the love, or my dad's job he won't work so much, he won't be gone. So that's what we often find in the work. And that was what controlled me for 47 years, was the meaning I placed on stuff that happened to me as a child. It's really, really interesting. So how do you shift that in someone? So let's say that, use me as an example. Dad hit me, dad made fun of me. So I had this image that I'm not enough. How do we heal that with your work?
Well, the work that I have spent the last 25 years doing is working with the adolescent or the young adult who is in programs, in therapy, has been, under IEPs at school, special challenges constantly, because that kid doesn't fit within that family system because the tension is so raw. Okay.
What's an IEP?
An individualized education plan within it's a program that the schools assign so that each teacher has a way to adapt education. Gotcha. Okay. So what I love is I can hold the child, and then I can turn to the parent and say, this child is having a hard time around you because you're angry, you're not present, you're not working, you're trying to, something's out of sync with you. Now, if you want a relationship with this child, and I like to hold the child, theoretically out there, then what does this child need from you that's different? And so it takes it out of, I have to do this for myself, to I need to do this for my child, for my family system. And what I like about that work is we're much more motivated to save our children than we are to save ourselves. And then in the process, we save ourselves because we reparent. So what that child needs mostly from us, that teen, that adolescent, right? That young adult, is that they need to hear that I get it. And this is what I'm going to do to work on me. And then they go, okay, then this is what I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden you have a shift or a transformation happening within a very tight family system that was driven by the courageous young child.
Do you know that's exactly how I was in this invisible prison for 47 years, and I had no idea. And it was in getting my son help for his anxiety that I came across my issues. And this performance coach was like, you have a tick, like you blink like crazy when you talk about your childhood. You may have some childhood trauma that's actually unresolved, that's actually affecting your son's anxiety. I'm like, no, not me. No, I'm a single dad. I'm there all the time. I don't hit him. I don't make fun of him. I hardly ever yell at him. Like, it can't be me. But sure enough, it was me. And of course, his mother, because typically we will partner with someone who has, some of the similar issues, but
Mhm.
really fascinating. Okay. So the parent comes to you with the child.
Mhm.
The child has the issues because of the
Yep.
parent. Number one question is, how often are the child's issues not related to the parent?
Zero. They're always related to the parent because whether it is what we perceived in the womb, through the mother, or what the first birth through 3 years of reading the dynamics. Like, okay, when those two talk, they have those faces, they do this, and they can feel it in their bodies. So one of the things I started to do in 2015 is I started studying with Elaine Aron's work called The Highly Sensitive Person, and worked on levels of sensitivity. So here's another tarot card to show you, which is a picture of a woman who's glowing with this red, or this light, this warm light around her. And when she's touching the tree has the same glow, and she has the same glow. So she's matching it energetically. So what happens is that when we're sensitive, and all of us have levels of receptivity that's sensitive, is that we're reading the environment, we're reading the climate in the house, we're reading the eye contact that mom or dad makes, we're reading the posture. And so we are adjusting and trying to adapt to, is this a safe place? Is dad mad? Is mom mad? What's going on? And so then there's this anxiety and this tension, which means that the vibration of the office, the vibration of the house, the vibration of the classroom is not comfortable. And then we're told, just buck it up and do what you're supposed to do. And that's the old thinking, which is just thrive in it or get out.
So that was, if you had a mic to drop, that would have been, I think, the drop the mic moment so far when I asked you that question and you responded. And the question was, how many of the kids' issues are not affected, not caused by the parents? And you said 0. Did you guys hear that? Like, that is pretty profound, right? If your child has behavioral problems, if they have anxiety or depression, if they're getting terrible grades in class, it's not your fault, but you are causing it, and you're causing it probably by the way you were raised. So if you want to fix your child, you've got to begin by fixing you. And I'm going to take back that word fixed. I'm going on just a couple hours of sleep here. I don't like the word fixed because I don't believe any of us are broken. It's just about healing. It's about healing those meanings that we talked about earlier from your childhood that you're probably just pushing it down. So if you're listening to this wondering, do I have any of those things from my past? I created a 3-minute quiz. Do yourself a favor in your health and your partner and your business if you have one, and go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz and take this. It only takes a couple minutes, literally like less than 3 minutes. It's 12 questions. It will tell you if you have some of these meanings or these limiting beliefs that are buried in you that may be affecting all kinds of things in your life, your kids' behavior, your addiction, your drinking, your depression, anxiety, whatever it is. So do yourself a favor, go take that quiz. Okay, so Denise, this is great stuff. So now we've agreed that the parents are the cause of it. It's not their fault, but they're the cause of it. Now what do you do? What do you work with the child and the parent?
I love that because I don't work with the child. When I was working in therapeutic placement, I ran admissions I was the gatekeeper for psychiatric evaluation hospital, for a therapeutic high school, for, a young adult independent living program. So in admissions, my job was to assess what was going on with the family and decide if that teen or young adult was appropriate for our program. And what I started to do was hold my hand out, and as I'm reading their psychoeducational testing or listening to the reviews the interviews I have to make in order to make that decision, the kid's sitting there talking to me like, we'll ask him about this, we'll ask him about that. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? It's almost like in Star Wars where R2-D2 has, Princess Leia says, the hologram comes out, help me, I was like, oh, this kid's talking to me. So often when I'm working with the parents, they go, well, don't you want to meet my kid? And I go, I don't need to. I can already feel what their experience is. And so let's talk about how to get in touch with being aware of what you're sending out and aware of what you're holding in, and whether or not that is a feeling that's comfortable for you. Because my guess is when you get comfortable as the parent with being able to say something from an authentic place, or to be able to recognize that your breathing is down in your deeper part of your chest and not up here in your throat, or that there aren't shards of tension coming out of you, that everything changes in the family.
And yeah, and it did in my world. So I was a little confused at first because when I asked you about myself, you said I only work with children. You heal children, but by working through their parents, is that right?
No, I work with, I'm a parent coach, and I work with I advocate for the child. I'm always going to take that child and say, this kid deserves, because, I'm going to go to my childhood, right? This kid deserves a family that is nice to them, that says, I love you, or that isn't judging you from head to toe when you walk in, that you can feel the energy. If I was born into a family that has no emotional intelligence at all, no emotional awareness, and I'm all emotion. And so there was this, like, I'm reading everything in the family all the time and thinking, well, what's wrong with me? This is a horrible place to go. And I just, every year I got older, I got busier and busier, and then never stayed home. So we know that we have these reactions. So I work with the parents. If they want a relationship with their child, they need to say, what am I responsible for myself? And
Gotcha.
then the hardest part is when you've got a mom and dad on the phone, right? Or on Zoom, and you ask them a question and they look over at the other one before and they try to answer it. And you go, no. I need you on separate screens, separate rooms. I don't want that in mesh dynamic. Let's start working on you individually and you individually.
So let's talk about energy. You said how energy affects another person. I've heard it also affects like different things in nature, trees, and it probably affects everything because we're all energy. But speak a little bit to that, how people are like, well, I'm negative, but I keep to myself or whatever.
So if you go to Heart Math Institute, they're going to show documentation that we have a field around us. And I like to just hold my hands out straight on either side, 3 feet on one side, 3 feet on the other, 3 feet above, 3 feet below, 3 feet out front. And what Heart Math is able to prove is that we are picking up and reading energy, vibration, invisible information at all times. It goes in through our body, then it goes up to our head, and our head says, when he has that look on his face, I think that means this. Or when she's giving me the silent treatment, oh, she must be mad about something. I wonder if she's mad at me. We don't even know. We can just feel it. And we can see it and we can hear it. Every sentient being has a field. And our fields, we can read each other at all times. So, and there's a new recognition on who's an empath or who isn't. We are all empaths. We are all sensitive. We are all reading this at all times. That's how our instincts, our gut, that's how our intuition works for us. So I'm always putting that into the family system, putting that into the clinical teams, putting that into the business teams, which is, how are you energetically reading each other? Because the words are one thing, but when you can tell that the words are shallow and there's a different meaning behind it, then what we want to say is, can you please bring those two into coherence for me? Because what you're saying and what you're feeling is not the same.
So tell us a little bit for the folks that don't know about Heart Math. What is it and what is your experience with it? I've looked into it a little bit. I'm fascinated. I've thought about buying the monitor or whatever the piece of equipment is. And I've never pulled the trigger, but it fascinates me.
Well, I haven't bought it either. I ran across Heart Math when I started to explore sensitivity, because they were the one research institute that was providing data, raw data on what happens in our field before our brain can react or see it. And so that, when I'm working with, I worked in the private pay therapeutic industry, which meant I was working with families that were Fortune 100, politicians, entertainers, really big management execs. And so I had to have some data that I could hand to them to say, hey, look at Elaine Aaron. She's a clinical psychologist. Look at heart math. It shows you what the field is. Go here, go here. So that I had some tangible research that they could hold on to, and then we could play off of that. So within HeartMath Institute, they have a study, and you can see the video at the very beginning where they show a series of slides, and you're monitored both in head and heart and breathing and nervous system. And they were able to prove that before the slide even came up, the body would have a reaction to it, because time and space moves around differently in your field than it does in your eyes and in your mind. And so whether it was a picture of a sweet, little puppy or a car accident, they were measuring the field responses way before the slide even showed up. And I thought,
I saw that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's incredible. So just so the folks that don't know, there's a participant sitting in a computer monitor, and stuff is coming up, and the heart actually felt it or knew it was going to come up before it even showed up on the computer screen. HeartMath, I don't know if they were the ones who determined it, but they were the ones to determine that the energy of the heart and its span outside the body was even more powerful than the brain, right?
5,000 times more powerful, more intelligent than the brain. Because what we know is that everyone has a field, and we're interacting with each other's fields at all times. What happens after our field is impacted is our brain, our analytical system starts to go, oh, nervous system is doing this, breathing is doing this. I'm reminded of, oh, she looks like my mom when she does that. Like, the example I would use is my husband and my mother both used silent treatment. And I could tell when they started to do that. And I was like, oh, I could feel it. It was just vibrating, right? So then your brain puts meaning to it. So your brain is so minute compared to the intelligence that's available within your field, within your heart. So I keep bringing that down, because these younger kids are much more present in their fields than we are as adults.
Wow, fascinating. So I have this theory that I want to share with you, and I want your opinion on it. You've heard people say, well, my husband's not affectionate. Mm-hmm. And I say he was at one point in time, because when he was a 2-year-old, he probably was walking up to other 2-year-olds, hugging them and kissing them, right? I think that people become non-affectionate through the voices and the meanings that we've been talking about for these last 20 minutes. What is your thought on that?
Well, it makes sense. If you are at your core, you are a affectionate, touch is one of your love languages. You want words of affirmation. You need that interaction, that connection, and you are involved with someone who either has not had that, or is insecure about that, or has certain triggers that will shut them down. Like, for instance, if you're not listening to them when they tell you a story. If they go to touch you when you come in and you've got kids' diapers, you're like, shit, get off of me. I can't even, these things start to turn into these patterns, which is, all I have to do is watch her energy or his energy. And I can tell you that the spikes are up and don't go close. And then that person's like, how come you don't touch me anymore? You're like, I need your spikes to go down. I need you to stop emitting all of that you're doing. And then it's like, he said, she said, or you said that, and you point the finger. Well, so the line that I always work with is, if you would, then I would, is not the right way to go. In other words, if you would just touch me more, then I would be much more affectionate, as opposed to if I want affection, how about if I just go reach out and ask for it?
Yeah. Why do you think you married a person that had similar traits to your mom?
Oh, I think we marry one of either a mother or a father, or whatever. We duplicate vibrationally what we're most comfortable with. Even
if it's terrible?
Well, I don't think we have as much knowledge in our 20s, our early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, about our relationship reactions to our parents. We just know what feels comfortable. What is, and again, attention or energy isn't good or bad until we define it as that. It's just comfortable. So we find someone that's similar that we continue to keep trying to impress, trying to love them, get them to love us in a little bit different way. And then it's just like, all I do is try to get him to love me. It's like, yeah, I'm done with that. We're over. I'm not doing that anymore. You're divorced. I'm divorced. We know this one.
It's fascinating to me because I married my dad twice. And if someone could have said to me, go marry your dad, I've been like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to marry my dad. But wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you've been an entrepreneur for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Give us like, what is the greatest thing you've learned about being an entrepreneur that could help other people?
I like that. I'm going to give you 3 steps. Boom, boom, boom. First was that my father gathered us all up and moved us to San Jose at the beginning of the semiconducting industry. And we started a business in our garage. We made the catalogs, we answered the phone, we had people over for dinner, and we watched our business grow. And there was a point where my mom said, either you stop working or I'm out. And so he changed to entrepreneurial work because he knew he could control the hours more. So his commitment was he had to be home by 6 o'clock. He had to have his weekends open, and we had 2 weeks off a year when the kids were out of school to go on vacation. And we would all help him the rest of the time. And he liked those parameters, and it worked for us. As a matter of fact, he always gave us more time than most parents, most dads in the street. So then fast forward, I've worked for myself. I taught school for 3 whole years. And then I was like, no, I'm not working for someone else. So I ran my own meeting planning business, met and married my husband through trade shows. We started our own company, and we raised our family for the 16 years I was married as an entrepreneurial family, which meant that, he was downstairs in his office doing his work while I'm juggling kids, getting them to school. He helped with the school thing. And so he started early, so he would be done at 3 o'clock, and he coached teams and I coached teams, and we played with our kids in the afternoon, and we could determine our schedules. We worked really hard at the things we knew how to do, and we made the money we needed. And so when I moved on out of the marriage and started my own business, I started my own coaching. I worked for other people for about 5 years again, and then went into entrepreneurial work where I'm doing my own coaching practice. And I noticed that all the coaching conferences and at some of the trainings I went to, there were a lot of coaches, but not a lot of people who were supporting themselves fully on their coaching salary. But I was, and I have been for the last 14 years. And I work in the afternoon. I build my entire scheduling system around what my body needs and what keeps me in balance, because I need to be the best person I can be when I'm working, and I need to play when I'm not.
So what's the single best advice that you could give someone for being successful after all these years in working for yourself?
That life is a game, and you play it. You play it the way you want to play it. I'm a card player. I love to play hearts and like try to hold the queen and try to gather. And if I don't win, I just go like, or if I don't make it on that hand, I go like, oh, that was a good try. And I don't get attached to it. I just stay really present to the game and go, what do I need right now? And how do I prepare for what I'm doing? Now, I'm in a fortunate position where I can only do 3 or 4 sessions, maximum 4 a day. That's 4 hours a day. The rest of the time I'm riding my bike to the coffee shop. I'm, on my paddle board at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock after a session. I'm doing whatever I can to get that off of me, which is what I think is the value of working for yourself. Is you go in, you work hard, and then you come out and you play with the rest of it. And it's a balance of give and take.
I love it. What do I need right now? That is a question that you can ask yourself on a daily basis. When your spouse comes to you and you shut down, when your spouse comes to you and you say, when you're thinking about not going to the gym, when you're thinking about opening up that next 6-pack of beer, just ask yourself, what do you really need? What do you really need? You don't need to shut down. You don't need the beer. You don't need the porn, whatever it is. You need something else. And it's probably because you're scared, you're afraid of something. You need someone to love you, to understand you. Just get curious with that. And that single thing right there can bring you so much joy in your life. Just, what do I need right now? Denise, how can people reach you if they want to reach you?
Well, I just finished my new website. I told you I'd have it up before we interviewed. It's at denisedryden.com. It has links so you can book a session with me, or you can just explore what my approaches are and how I work. And there's some great pictures on there from Montana.
Is there and spell Dryden for us, please?
Dryden. So
and is there a? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. Is there like an ideal client that works with you?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if they're old or young, doesn't matter if they're in a relationship, out of relationship. It's that they're ready. They're ready to actually do something, because I'm a double Pisces. I'm an intense human being. I can read their energy and their field all the time on them. So when they come and say, yeah, I want to do this, and they don't do their homework or they don't want to work, you go like, oh, yeah, come back in a year or so. But when someone comes in, they're ready, it doesn't matter what the problem is, whether it's a child, whether it's you, whether it's your health, whether it's your work. If you're ready, that's when it's fun. When you go, okay, I want to try that, and you go try it, it actually works. Then it's like, give me another one. Let's try something else. Because what we're doing is we're learning how to use this field, how to stay in that place of joy all the time.
Love it. Love it. Well, Denise, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you've imparted on us. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Brad. It was so much fun. I like your questions. I wish we had more time. I could talk for hours, as you know.
I could too. So this concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Remember, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people profoundly change their lives by getting rid of these self-limiting beliefs that are causing the suffering or the struggling in your life. So I need your help. So if you like this podcast, share it, rate it, review it, whatever you can do, subscribe so that we can get this word out and we can help more people. Until next time, love heals all.